Join. Let me go. Thank God. Where's my link? What is today? Friday. Friday, a little slow start today. I was deep, way down in the jungle deep. Way down in the jungle deep, trying to figure out a few things. I was seeking God. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be seeking God. Hang on. Where's my link? Couple questions. We're seeking couple questions. Link. What should we call this? Seek God. First, you got to know where God can't be. You're going to seek God. You got to know where God isn't. Seek God. Oh, actually, you know what? Seek God first. That's what it is. I don't think you're ever going to necessarily find God, per se, whatever that thing is. I just think that you got to seek it, and you got to know where it's not. If you know where it's not, then you probably know where maybe you should be walking. All right, seek God first. But second, you got to know where it isn't. Second, know where it can't be. Know on the Facebook side where we are. This is where we are. I don't know why I keep saying humanity is one. I know why. You know what? I could have changed it. I didn't change it. A lot of complications to this thing. What am I thinking about today? I will say I'm always thinking about something. There's always something, but you know what? There was a quote I got last night, and I'm not even sure who said this originally. And of course, it started a whole bunch of discussion. Hang on one second. I'm still getting set up. Let me get all set up, turn the comments on. There was a quote last night, and I thought it was relatively deep. Good morning, Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca, I asked a question. First of all, I have to let anybody know who thinks if you come here to find God, come to the wrong place. This is not the place. I think you have to seek God, whatever God is. And I think a lot of people tell you they know what God is. And I don't think anybody knows what God is. I think that the ancient texts are important. The ancient texts are important. And I was listening to a lecture by, who is this brother? I might actually have to start playing. It's kind of long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Lawrence Gardner. Have you heard of Lawrence Gardner? Lawrence Gardner. There was an event, was it 3,000 years ago? When Moses took the Egyptians into the wilderness and they ate the manna. A lot of questions there. What is manna? How can it sustain? Do you believe that story, or do you believe that story is for the Christians? I'll say the quote and we can, I'll show it to you. Because actually there were a lot of good responses on that thread. And hang on. Here we go. Is the goal of Buddhism to create Buddhas or Buddhists? And is the goal of Christianity to create Christs or Christians? Great quote, great. I think that came to me from Sister Emmy through somebody else. I forgot her name. But it was a deep, deep question. Good question. Good question. The challenge is you have to have an open mind, right? I don't think you can seek God in a closed mind. I think that you can only be on that journey and accept that none of us really know. Except that back then they never really knew. Except that the kings back then, like the kings today, never, ever give you any hints or clues to what's true. You know, like we always talk about the 13 families. We talk about who actually runs things that we don't ever know. People still pretending the political world runs things, and that boggles my mind. But the kings never, ever would give you any inkling as to what is actually true, for good reasons. And probably the breadcrumbs, the audit trail today that you can tell that they don't do that any longer. They've never given us what's true, because they love money, right? And money is a representation of human labor, which is all about power, right? They want power, and the more power they have, the stronger they are. The less you have, the stronger they are. So they have no interest in you having money. Not beyond you just going to work or something, being a slave for their power, but knowledge is power. Knowledge has always been power. And money is just a representation of power. So if they keep the knowledge from you, they stay powerful. And I think the kings are always trying to be the gods. I think the gods came here a long time ago. Little g gods, after a big G god created all this. Maybe it's through a big bang or something. But I believe that this quote, this question, is a fantastic. I think it is a fantastic one. If you know me, you know that I have no interests in religion beyond it's a gateway drug to spirituality. That's what it is. I grew up in the church, but religion is a gateway drug to spirituality. And I think we had a couple good comments on this thread. I won't go through the comments. I don't like putting people on blast, because when you do that, some people are a little still sensitive about this stuff. Oh, hang on, I want you to see that. What the heck that was. Where are we going? Oh, that was my, there you go with God, you're not good to the gods. If they got it in a book, if they got God on lock and they can put God in a box, do those people seek God? That's why I like this. That's why I like this. And it's hard for a lot of people to kind of bite into this, right? Because we're indoctrinated to think that we know. And I don't think we ever really do. I don't think existing here, we're allowed to know. I think all we can do is seek. But first, we've got to know where God isn't. And God is not in a place, oh Lord, here we go. Talk about something important. What's happening in their world? The White House, something that's not important to me. It's interesting because I need to know where to run when the monkeys start acting up. I'm not interested in politics. I laugh about it. I laugh about this world. But God is not in politics. God is not in the Democratic Party. God's not in the Republican Party. God's not going to be in anything that they say. God has no interest, whatever God is, has no interest in you murdering and stealing from other things that it creates. Zero interest. God is not on TV, whatever God is. The traces for God will never be on the billionaires' TV. Well, I don't know, maybe some trace elements of what a God might be. But you're not going to, the billionaires, the kings of our day, the trillionaires, are not going to put on a programming box what God is. They're not going to put it in a book. So I like ancient texts, and I want to play a little bits and pieces of this real quick, just to let you know where my mind is, because I am trying to have a discussion on it. You know, people say, well, the Bible is the word of God. That's what I was raised to believe. I can tell you equivocally in my mind, the Bible is not the word of God. We don't have to go through it, do your research. There are copies of copies of copies of copies. We've proven that time and time again. You had the Adam and Eve story, and the CIA blocked that, classified that, so you actually couldn't read it. And those are very good bits of evidence that they have no interest in people finding whatever God is. Personally, I think that Christ and Buddha were close to it. I don't think that Christ intended to make Christians. I think Christianity, like Buddhism, is a gateway drug to spirituality. I think you are a God. That's why I think they took the Gnostic texts out, because you have to discover it. And Buddha said it in his way, the Buddha consciousness, if you will, and there were multiple Buddhas. Christ said it in his way, And there were probably various Christs over there. I think it's all the same energy. But these are things we don't understand. And I'm not going to claim to you I understand them. I'll tell you the things that make sense to me, and I'll tell you where I think God is not. Because I actually seek God, and you're not going to find God in Christianity. I'm sorry, I know you don't like that. But like I said, I was raised in the church, but I'm interested in seeking God, not seeking what the kings gave me to control me. I'm not interested in that. Christ never said go out and create Christianity. Christ said bring people together, and somebody formed a religion around it. Christians don't have a lock on Christ. Christians are a group that took some of Christ's teachings and they formed a church, which is okay. Nothing wrong with that. I just think religions are gateway drugs to spirituality. I think that you were supposed to be a God. And I think Christ told you that too. Christ told you that greater things it did, you will do. If you were listening. Okay. So you'll know a pastor, a minister who's actually discovered these things. When you see them walking on water, when you see them moving mountains, when you see them feeding the masses, when you see that, that's, you know what? Spiritual gifts, they say they come for the perfecting of the saints, right? And this is how you know it's an individual journey. I don't think it's a journey as a church. I don't think it's a journey as a temple. I don't think it's a journey as a group. I think you individually, personally must seek God. And I'm going to take you into what I'm going to read the comments real quick, then I'm going to take you into this lecture. The lecture was phenomenal, blew me away. So I posted on the page, they were talking about Mount Sinai, where Moses went, which by the way, I don't want to go back through the whole Adam and Eve declassified story. You got to go back, read it yourself. But the point was Moses, I think he did the best he could at the time he did. Mount Sinai is not where they say it was. That is not the mountain that Moses went to. Okay. Moses had trouble translating geoglyphs that came from the Sanskrit text. And if you're not careful, you're going to be following, it's not even a false God. It's not even a God. It's just false translations. Okay. So I'm going to take you down there. Let's see the comments real quick. Because I do want it to be interactive. And I'm a little discombobulated. Because this is a new setup for me. Yeah, no, somebody asked my own face. No, Facebook. Am I in Facebook jail? I don't know. I didn't ask. I don't, when I get started in the morning, I drink my coffee. I promote the video in the places that will accept it. Facebook is not accepting the videos. I don't know if it's temporary or permanent. I talk about it every morning. I'm not interested in whatever's happening on Facebook. Or any platform, but this is kind of on message too, right? The kings, the lords, the people who actually have the power will never, ever promote you if you are actually seeking the powerful things that they hold from the masses. I think there are a lot of things that we don't understand. Light in you, but people seek outside. That's the problem. Yeah, Christine, God is inside. And that's why them removing the Gnostic text tells you right from the start that they don't want you thinking God's inside. They did that to control the population. Being Christ means to give freely. Stacy, when you understand these things in terms of when you see someone who's Christ-like, it's not they don't mimic anything that you see in Christianity. And that's the scary part. That's why I'm not even affiliated. I like to say I'm loosely affiliated. I'm not even going to say that anymore. Christ is a teacher to me. Buddha's a teacher to me. But there are a lot of other teachers, right? There's the Egyptian pharaohs, right? Who, in alchemy and, people who are utilizing crystals. Some people here teach me. I've got various teachers. But the thing is something, I don't know where Susan got it from. But Susan had a deep quote I would keep referring back to, which is, don't be so consumed with who the messenger is that you lose the message. And there's some good comments down here, so I got to go look on that. Let me flip up real quick. Make sure I got every point I wanted to. Yeah. I always think about human life. Don't kill people. You kill people, you don't have anything to do with God. I'm sorry. You don't. And this talk actually goes down to manna and what manna is. Do you know what manna is? I don't. I think it was written down in scripture a long time ago. And I do think that I think there are people today who are kind of on it. I don't know if they got it precisely, and this is what the talk could get into. And this is the other point I was making. I can't tell you what I believe. I can't. You know, I just know that what's true will never be popular. It can't be popular. It can't. If you think about power and money and control, what's true can never be popular. I think that's it. Everything else is just comedy. All right, so I want to get you down into the talk. So we'll get into the talk. Having no fear, right? And you shouldn't have any fear. Absolutely, you should not fear God. A big G God is not something that wants fear. Little G gods and kings, they want fear. Jesus and God and you and all around, he and everyone were the children of God. He never claimed to be God himself. And these are important facts that people don't like to delve into, right? Everyone wants to, and I don't know if you're a minister or pastor. I'm just not trying to upset anybody. I'm just saying you got to have an open mind. When you find somebody who knows who God is, I suspect you will know. I suspect you will know. They won't need your money. They won't need you to eat crackers or drink wine formed as blood. Not a good thing, a bad thing. Just keep an open mind and understand nobody knows who God is. I personally kind of think that, see, I love science and religion to a degree. I don't like the word religion because people, when you say that, they get all discombobulated. They don't really understand the anti-religion as bad as the religion. They don't understand that that's a religion too. Right? But I think it's the same thing. I think science and religion are required to find or to be on that path of seeking God. And I think the Big Bang was a key. I think the Big Bang was a key. And the whole universe is said to have started from matter the size of a pea, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It means that we are wave energy. We are spiritual creatures. We are frequencies, all of that. But whatever that small pea was just the most powerful matter element, the one element. Whatever the hell that is the most powerful thing in known existence of all dimensions and galaxies and universes and whatever. And you only have you barely have a drop of dry dust, talcum powder of that one element. The earth barely has that. So the closer you get back to that base element, #mana, the more power you have. I can't show the whole lecture, but if you watch the whole thing towards the end of it, the brother had a few clips of a few chemists doing some experiments, right? Creating this white powder that they found in Egypt, right? And some people say it's mad. The closer you get back to that base element that all of this came from, that's literal power, right? That is infinite power. That is, call it 0 point, if you will. And one theory was that I won't get into it. Let me do the rest of the comments and we'll get going, because I can't do this all day. But you got to seek God. If you're going to seek God, there is no stopping point. There is no, we done figured it out. No, there's not. You're going to continue going up. We done got it. Let's put it in a book. No, there's never. The people who figure God out, they don't write books. They ascend or do whatever they do. They fly. They got vimanas, or they become spiritual creatures. They heal people by touching them, and they walk on water. So yeah, I think religion is a gateway drug to spirituality. So I'm not hating on religion. I'm just saying don't let that be your stopping point. Religion separates us. Spirituality connects us. Exactly. Thank you, Susan. That's a good way of re-quoting that quote, which is it slipped my mind. I'm sorry, Colin. Right, focus on the message, not the messenger. If you're focused on the message, you know the message is love. You know the message is sustainability. Whatever God is this great sustainable creature that loves ecosystems and creativity and making things, not murdering things, blowing them up, putting in subgroups of humans or whatever and putting them in conflict. So that's another good way of saying it. Absolutely. The Big Bang was a sexual experience, I believe, and you go with that, Stacy. In some ways, I get the depth of your mind. I hear where you're going. Yeah. So it was creation. I think creation came first, and then the whole sexual thing came. I don't think that was the beginning. I think that came out of the need to procreate and populate planets. But that's just me. I'm fine with what everybody thinks. All right, let me get into it. I think I hit most comments there quickly. Mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter. Yeah. Oh, go on, John Anthony. Mind over matter. Right. We know mind over matter is a thing. We won't get into the placebo effect, but mind always has power over matter. And I think that when you find someone who's getting close to what a god might be, they have the ability to do stuff like that. They know what they're doing. Like, you ever think about something and it happens and you like control the situation? Like a lot of us do it, placebo, nocebo effect. We don't really know what we're doing. It just kind of happens. When you have people who can control that, that's what you listen to. And that's what that whole scripture about perfecting of the saints. When you see people walking on water and feeding masses from one fish or two fish and a bread loaf, when you see them doing things that make no sense, your ears open. And that was how that Christ consciousness thing worked, right? It didn't hit you over the head with the Bible and scriptures. Hey, come on to church. If Christ were alive today, it showed you that it was a powerful thing. It showed you that it was intact with whatever all of this is. It did something. It gave you sight and you were blind. It fed you if you were hungry. It did whatever, and I keep calling it because I don't think we really know what it is. But it showed you that it had the power. I got the power. And then your ears opened up and listened. When Christ is walking around here today, it does mystical things. I've once interacted with somebody that did something that a human being should not have been able to do. And I listened to that thing. I told that story a long time ago. That's how you know if somebody's getting close to it. All right, let me show you this real quick. It was a deep talk. They were talking. That was all of a preface to kind of walk you into what I'm kind of thinking this morning, where I kind of like to start discussion out. This is Brother Robert SEPEHR. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel, but he has some deep talks and conversations around this. But check this out.
Globalist entities. That said, I'd like to start today's episode with a brief excerpt from a talk given by Mr. Gardner at Jay-Z Knight's Ranch on June 20, 1998, in case anyone would like to search for the lecture in its entirety. So let's have a listen.
There is a hell of a lot discovered out there in these countries that we don't get to hear about. It's put under wraps, it's kept in closeted rooms beneath the museums, but we don't get to learn the truth of it. So what we're going to do, I think, today really is just to look at one example of a particularly monumentous find of that era, of the late 1800s. We'll look at one particular discovery just to give you an idea of the sort of thing that has been veiled from us. In my opinion, this is probably the most important biblical discovery ever made. There is little, if anything, beyond academic and closeted circles that are written about it at all. Within the context of the book of Exodus, there's a significant mountain named in the Bible. It sits in the range of the Sinai Peninsula, which is an upturned triangle that's between Egypt and Jordan. It's firstly called Mount Horeb, it's secondly called Mount Sinai, it's then called Mount Horeb again, and that's the name that it sticks with as the story progresses. And the story, of course, is that of Moses bringing the Israelites out of Egypt, and they meet with Jehovah on the holy mountain of Horeb in Sinai. At the time of Moses, roughly 1360 BC, that sort of era, there actually was no mountain called Mount Sinai. We must know that at the outset. There wasn't even a mountain by that name in the time of Jesus, and not even for another 300 or 400 years did Mount Sinai exist in geographical record. The translation of the Old Testament that we have today was compiled in a little before the year 1000. It is actually 600 years newer than the New Testament that we have today. So giving places names that they knew about in the year 1000, when the Crusades were thought about being launched and that sort of thing. They were giving places names that they knew at that time, not necessarily names that applied back in the time of Moses and the others, so that the people of that era would know exactly where they were talking about. Now, the mountain generally called Mount Sinai now sits in the south of that triangular peninsula. It was actually given its name and called Mount Sinai in the 4th century. A mission of Greek Christian monks decided to build a little mission there, and they decided that this was Mount Sinai of the Bible. It's sometimes called Jebel Musa, which means Mount of Moses. And there's a small Christian retreat there today. It's called St. Catherine's Monastery. But was that the mountain that actually was the mountain?
Take a brief little pause. So they lied about Mount Sinai. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was obviously not known at the time. So they came up with this mountain. They said it's Mount Sinai. It does not equate with what's in the Bible. And so why? So when you take your voyage there, why is it important? Well, all right, so I grew up in the church. I love breaking down narratives. I love breaking down lies. I want to know what's not true, so I can at least be heading in the right direction to find out what's true. Mount Sinai was where Moses got the 10 Commandments, which obviously is very powerful, but Moses met with God there. So that's key. Why? Because it made a religion that ended up in conflict with other religions that pretty much has destroyed this planet, right? Like the whole basis of where we are, which is why, again, I don't do politics, and I don't live in their reality anymore. I don't live in the reality of television. Consciousness is where we gotta go. So we have to push in those spiritual directions to discover consciousness of what we are. This is where humanity needs to be. Humanity needs to get out of the struggles over ignorance, over resources and messengers, and focus on the message. This is why this is important, because if you can get a bunch of people and call them Christian or Jews or whatever you want to call them, and you send them to the wrong mountain, then they won't have any idea of what Moses interacted with or what Moses saw.
Mount Sinai of the Bible, or the Mount Horeb of the Bible. It transpires that it was not. Exodus actually goes to some lengths to explain to us exactly where this magical mountain was. The mountain that Moses and the Israelites went to on their way from Egypt across to the land of Midian. It tells us that they crossed the wilderness regions of Shur and Paran, and they came to this mountain. Well, in actual fact, if one follows the route on the map, exactly the route that's given to us in Exodus, that they are hundreds and hundreds of miles away from the Mount Sinai that sits on our maps today.
Hundreds of miles.
In fact, they travel so north across Sinai that they are within hundreds of miles of the Red Sea. They actually crossed the strip of land at the top where the Suez Canal sits today. So it seems rather strange that they should have diverted by hundreds of miles to cross the Red Sea at a point where Moses had to part the waters. Wasn't the case. They were very north of that, and it tells us where they went across there. It tells us exactly where Mount Horeb was. The word Horeb is an Arabic word. It simply means desert. Mount Horeb was desert mountain. And desert mountain is something which has been well known for a long, long time. And at the moment, this time and for this century, it's been called the mountain of Serabit El Kadim, the prominence of the Kadim. This sits about 2,600 feet above sea level, exactly where Exodus tells us it was, on the route from Egypt, the land of Goshen, across to the land of Midian. Well, in the late 1890s, the British Egyptologist Sir Flinders Petrie of University College in London decided to apply to the Egyptian Exploration Fund for money to go and investigate this mountain.
To go and to seek God. Seeking God. Okay, he didn't go to church. He read the Bible, he studied to show thyself approved, and he went to go find the Mount Sinai, the real one.
By 1904, he and the team were there. They were standing at the foot of Mount Serabit. And in the following year, Petrie published privately the results of their findings. Photographs, records, and maps. But he added to his notes to this publication that the report that he made, despite its funding source, would not generally be made public by the Egyptian Exploration Fund. The subscribers to the fund would receive maps, they would receive little bits of information, but the detail of what they found would not be mentioned at all. The officers would simply tell even their own members what they wanted to tell from the results of Petrie's findings. Why? Had he in fact broken some regulation of the articles? Had he found something that he wasn't supposed to find? Well, that's exactly what had happened. He discovered the secret of this magical, sacred mountain of Moses. Sinai was not a foreign land to the Egyptians. It was actually part of Egypt. It came under pharaonic control. So Moses and the Israelites, when they left Egypt and crossed into Sinai, were theoretically, for that moment in time, still in Egypt. Sinai came under the control of some particular public officials. One was called the Royal Chancellor, other was called the Royal Messenger, and these people governed Sinai. Moses' era was the era of Egypt's 18th dynasty, and in fact we know exactly who the governors of Sinai were in the 18th dynasty.
Okay, so if you're following the thought process, I think is shared here, where do you look for information? Where do you look for what's true? You seek truth in places where they hide it, right? When you start to ban things, when you don't want to share the information, then there's some significance to the information. And so he went and did the study and came back and knew that it was significant enough that it wasn't going to be popular. And so the funders he gave the details to, the pictures and everything he found, he let them release what they wanted to release to wherever they got the funds from, right? So this is the problem with religion. And this is why I get a lot of y'all hate it, but you got to stop hating it, because the people who are religious don't own these texts. These texts go back Sumerians, Assyrians, before that, Sanskrit texts through Egypt. These texts are your heritage. This is where we discover truth. So he came back and he knew, you'll see in a minute why. But this is why I key in on this. You always want to look where they don't want you to look. You always want to look where somebody hides something in their pockets. My example of coming home, how do I know who was in the cookie jar? The kid with crumbs on his face and hands in his pockets, because I know he got his name, I won't say his name because my son watches every now and then, and he got cookies in his pocket. You always look where they don't want you to look. You will never find anything true on television. You will find what they want you to know. You will find what is insignificant to affecting their power. You won't find the secrets to power, money, wealth, or knowledge on television. You will be a cattle herder. So this is why I keyed on this. This is, to me, it's exciting. Anytime you're hiding what is being found about ancient archaeology is very important.
We know their names, we know their families. The royal messenger was a guy called Nebi, and he was also mayor and troop commander in the set town of Zaru, which in fact was the chief town in Goshen where the Israelites had come from. It's where they spent their years in Egypt. The royal chancellor was held in the family of Par-Nihas. Panahesi of this family was the official governor of Sinai at the time. The family of Par-Nihas goes right back into the kingship of ancient Troy. It's a family that moves through kingship all the way through history, and at that time Par-Nihas was governing Canaan. The Bible calls him Phineas. So when we read about Phineas becoming one of the first priests of the Egyptian church, of the Israelite church, this is Par-Nihas. This is the governor of Sinai, very important man.
So queuing up, I don't want that. I don't care enough about that. See, like, you see the significance there, and he's also relating to the other scriptures. And so it's safe for you. If you were like me and you were raised in the church, it's safe for you, right? You just have to accept the understanding that the kings would never allow the truth to go in the Bible. They would never allow it to go in the Torah. They're little tidbits of it, but not the complete truth, because they always want the power. They want to keep the power for themselves.
He goes to the mountain, and he knows that there's going to be something there. Quite how he knows, he doesn't explain, but he knows that this is the mountain, and he knows that if he looks hard enough, he's going to find a secret there. Well, to start with, they found nothing very much at all. But on a wide plateau, very near the summit of this mountain, they found things that made them believe there had been habitation there. There were things around that looked like buildings. sticking out of this plateau, 2,600 feet up a mountain. There were great pillars, standing stones protruding out of a whole heap of rubble. So he decided to have a look and see what was underneath this rubble. This rubble had been deposited by winds and landslides over 3,000 years, but when it was finally moved away, Petrie wrote at that time, "There is no other monument known which makes us regret more that it is not in better preservation. The whole of this was buried. No one had any knowledge of it until we cleared the site."
So you're getting the significance, right? Where Moses went to interface with God, there was a civilization there. This is a temple. It's an Egyptian temple. You'll go through it. It was all rubble. The things they don't want you to know, the things they don't want you to discover, because religion is the means of keeping everybody in conflict all over this planet. It's worked so well, and they don't want to lose that. So I think that they discover these things, they keep them from you. But the significance is, so when Moses went there were people there. This temple was there, and these people had lived there for a long time.
What they found high up on Mount Horeb, 2,000 feet above sea level, was an enormous Egyptian temple. 230 feet of it spread out above ground, another part of it spread out within a cave below ground, cut into the mountainside with shored edges and polished sides. And the various inscriptions and cartouches around this temple and on the walls and the standing stones led him to discover that this had been an operative Egyptian temple right back to the time of the very first dynasty of Egypt. We're looking at Moses in the 18th dynasty of Egypt, so that's going back a long, long way, and this temple had been operative all through that time, 3000 BC. The above ground part of the temple was mostly sandstone, quarried from the mountain itself. It comprised a series of halls and corridors, shrines, cubicles, chambers, and of these, the features that are now open for inspection are the main sanctuary, the Shrine of Kings, the portico court. These are big. The hall of the goddess Hathor. The whole of this temple complex that Moses took the Israelites to, where they apparently met with Jehovah to receive the Ten Commandments and the new ordinances, was a temple of the goddess Hathor. She appears on reliefs all around the place. The cave cut into the rock is dedicated to Hathor. The walls that are smoothed and polished like marble have her pictures all over them. And yet this is supposed to be the magic mountain of Jehovah. Deep within the cave, Petrie found a limestone standing stone of the pharaoh Ramesses I. Now, all of the experts today tell us that Ramesses was a hater of the Aten cult in Egypt. Not what Ramesses himself said. He describes himself with the title, "I am Ramesses, I am the ruler of all that Aten embraces." So the experts are telling us untruths even today about what these pharaohs were about. Also found was a statue head of the mother of Moses within this temple. So it proved, but not only had it been in constant use right back from about 3000 BC, even by the time that Moses got there in about 1330 BC, it was already being used in that recent period. It was constantly in use, this great temple. In the halls and the courts of the outer temple, there are stone tanks, rectangular basins and baths and all sorts of curiously shaped tables and benches that nobody could make any sense out of. They didn't look like altars. They had recessed fronts, they had split level surfaces, and the whole thing reminded them more of a laboratory than it did of a temple. There were alabaster vases, there were containers, and all these are shaped like lotus flowers and things like that. There are all sorts of articles there. There were wands there. They called them wands. They were like little priest sticks. And even today, they can't quite work out what they're made of. The material is very, very hard. These things are all designed, but they're not designed in the normal Egyptian style. They have basket work. They have lattice work. They have a style of design that is more Mesopotamian than Egyptian. And yet, this is an Egyptian temple. They also found a few other very strange things. When they move into the Hathor temple complex, which appears to be the central point at where all of this energy comes from, they begin to find some strange things. Conical stones set very carefully on a shelf, little cones of stone. A metallurgist's crucible was very apparent. Now these kind of things began to get Petrie and his people wondering, well, what on earth had these things got to do with a temple? There was nothing in temple law that said that metallurgist crucibles were part of what went on. And all over the temple, all over the walls and on the various stones, was something venerated, highly venerated within the temple complex, and it was called mufkuts. Doesn't mean a lot to us today, mufkuts. Okay, mufkuts. They found 2,600 feet above sea level in the mountain of the Bible, conical stones, metallurgist crucibles, tanks, basins, lotus flower equipment, all sorts of wands and tubing that look like a laboratory, and references venerating some mysterious substance called mufkuts. Now, they knew that these things were all linked together, but they didn't know how. So they began to try and work out what on earth mufkuts was. Some said it was probably copper. Many preferred the idea of turquoise. Others have supposed it was perhaps malachite. But the funny thing about these guesses was that none of these materials was apparent within the temple complex. There was no malachite, there was no turquoise, there was no copper. Sinai is noted for its turquoise mines, but if mining had been a primary function of that temple over 2,000 to 3,000 years, you'd expect to find turquoise stones in the tombs of Egypt. There are barely any at all. So if they were working for 3,000 years mining turquoise, they clearly only found about half a dozen. Copper, they said. Well, it didn't take them long to realize that if you were mining and smelting copper, you need very different equipment to this sort of equipment. This was not metal rectification equipment in the way that they knew it. Copper was apparent in Sinai, but down in the deep valleys there were smelting works, old smelting works, and they were nothing like this temple at all. There was no residue of copper anywhere except references to mufkuts. Another cause of wonderment as they travelled around this, as they kept removing all of this rubble, was that they kept seeing inscribed references to bread. Everywhere there were references to bread, and bread was always written alongside mufkuts. The other thing that happened all the time was that the most prominent of all the hieroglyphic signs outside that was the sign for light. Now bread and light and mufkuts all seem to be equally important within this temple complex. This was nothing to do with copper. It had something to do with these strange tanks, these strange laboratory tables with their recessed fronts and split level surfaces. So, bread, mufkuts, light, conical stones, metallurgist crucibles, all of these posed a problem until they decided to clear the rubble from a series of square storerooms in one of the parts of the temple. As they removed the rubble, they came across slabs of stone beneath the rubble. They moved the slabs of stone, and beneath these, carefully stored in every one of about 4 or 5 of these large square rooms, a few inches deep, packed tight on the floor, were tons and tons of the finest, purest, unadulterated white powder. So, said the experts, this is clearly the result of copper smelting. This clearly was from the burning of plants to produce alkali. Quite why they would want to produce alkali, nobody really knew, but the more they tested it, the more they found that there was no plant residue there at all. And in fact, if they were going to have a temple for the burning of plants, they actually would have done better down in the valleys where there were more trees, not 2,600 feet up a mountain. So for want of any other explanation, it was decided that the white powder and the stones were perhaps associated with the sacrificial rite. They're clinging at straws here all the time, trying to work out what on earth this was. This is probably animal sacrifice. Well, as pointed out by somebody who wasn't even the brightest member of the team, this was an Egyptian temple. There is nothing anywhere in history which says that the Egyptians ever used animal sacrifice for anything. It wasn't part of their religious structure at all. They tested the powder, they winnowed it in the breeze, they did everything they could. There was not a bone, a chip, a stone, a piece of plant, a piece of skin, anything in this powder. And it was described as being hard-packed talcum powder, which was impalpable to touch and just blew away in the breeze the moment you flicked it into the air. Petrie wrote, "Though I searched these ashes in dozens of instances, winnowing them in a breeze, I never found a fragment of bone, skin, plant, or anything else." So some of the mysterious powder was sent back to Britain for analysis and examination. The results, for what they were never actually published.
All right, so you're tracking where we are. Moses went on the mountain, got the 10 Commandments, spoke to God in the burning bush, came back down, and didn't say anything about an Egyptian temple he found with his mama, Horus, and a bunch of other gods represented. A whole civilization of people living on top of Mount Sinai he interacted with, and he didn't say anything about them. You should be curious. This blew my mind. It blew my mind. I can't show the whole thing because I don't have that much time on my hands. I posted the link. You can watch the whole thing, and I'll put it in the comments. And then they sent the results to Britain. What is this white powder? Because obviously this is what this facility was for, this laboratory. Right? They were refining something on this mountain. I know at first I thought it was cocaine too. I was just like, I know it. That's cocaine. We need to do some cocaine. No, that's not what it was. But they discovered it. They sent the results to Britain, or they sent the powder to Britain, and they tested it. And for whatever reason, they didn't publish the results. These are more indications of this is important. These are things you need to focus on. If it's written down, it's on TV, insignificant. If it's kept from the public, it means that it was something highly significant. And it was.
When people went back to have a look at the rest of the powder, and they reckoned there was about 50 tons of this.
50 tons.
It had all, of course, been left a victim to the desert winds and erosion and rainfall and whatever, and that was the end of that. What became apparent, however, when checking out other inscriptions at the temple, was that this mufkuts, this powder, had something to do with what the Mesopotamians called highwood firestone. It's the same thing. Mufkuts turned out to be highwood firestone. They called it the sacred Shem Anna, from which derived, of course, the biblical word manna. And this is the importance of the word bread that kept appearing through the thing. There was some tie-up between this powder and the Shem Anna of the Mesopotamians. Light.
And Christine, you're getting somewhere. I think you're going where we're right there. And so they're talking about manna. Right? And when the Egyptians were in the wilderness, 40 years or whatever, they survived on manna. How does a biological 98% monkey survive on manna? Whatever manna is. If it's bread, if it's rocks, if it's rice, if it's wheat, we would die. But if it was something that fed what we actually are, knowing that you can put everybody's actual atomic matter weight on the head of a pin, that we are more electric creatures, we are more spiritual, that if you have a base element or something closer to whatever the root base element is that created all of this, it would sustain you. And so this manna that came from the heavens, did it really come from the heavens? I don't know. But this was a laboratory that Moses discovered, that Moses said nothing about. I'm not saying, and first of all, I'm not saying that your Moses is a liar. I'm not going there. I'm just simply saying that we always think we're doing the right thing. You know how we say that? Everybody always thinks they're right, whether you go to Hitler or Barack Obama or Donald Trump, the right, the left, the blacks, the whites. Everybody thinks they're right. Everybody actually is wrong. Everybody always has a degree of wrong. I think Moses said what he felt was right. Moses did what he thought was right. And it probably was right. being in the wilderness. However, this powder is very significant, because Susan is on as well. You're starting to talk about alchemy. What were the Egyptians actually into? Is why one of the fascinations, and certainly Susan and I have, is ancient archaeology. We know that we come from great people. We know we come from great, fantastic things happen on this planet a long time ago that nobody seems to remember. The powder that was left on this mountain, why was it left there? Because people forgot what it was. They had no idea how to use it. So the wind and erosion blew it all away, washed it all away. Chichen Itza, right? Göbekli Tepe, all of these places, the pyramids, how did they build them? We know that we come from geniuses. We know we come from powerful people. We know the Sanskrit text documented where all the religions came from, all the religious texts. Powerful people way back when. And we're somehow in tune with something that we no longer are. This is why these scriptures are important. But I'm gonna let a little bit more of it play, and then you got to watch the rest of it. I can't watch it all with you.
Light. The word light was always there. Whenever Shemana was mentioned, whenever Mufkuts or Highwood Firestone was mentioned, the symbol for light was always there alongside it.
Light.
It was decided, and it turns out probably quite correctly, that this Mufkut was exactly the same powder that the book of Exodus actually talks about. It tells us about powder. It tells us about the Israelites being fed with a particular powder at that time. It tells about the importance of manufacturing something called showbread for the tabernacle and the altar of the temple. Showbread is exactly the same as show manna, and shemana is exactly what the Mesopotamians used to call it. It's the same thing. But the book of Exodus tells us that the guy who made the showbread for Moses' tabernacle was a guy called Bezaleel. Now Bezaleel, it goes to great pains to tell us, was a goldsmith and a master craftsman. So this fellow has got the instructions, and they're laid down in the Bible for us to read, to make candlesticks, to make golden bowls, to make platters, to make all the ornaments for the Ark of the Covenant, and to make this bread, the goldsmith.
Are you putting the pieces together? Hopefully you are, because it should blow your mind. That's what I'm saying, that you can't blow these scriptures off. I know he keeps saying Exodus and Genesis, but remember, they were original texts that came from the Sanskrit text. Later they got that name and they gave a Bible name. But you're looking back into a view in time that has been largely forgotten and wiped away. Right? Moses used the person making the manna. He was a goldsmith. He was a blacksmith. He was an alchemist, okay? Moses left a laboratory with white powder everywhere, where the Egyptians, who must have loved cakes, they must have loved some cone cakes, because all over Egypt, you find them cone cakes. They love to eat, either Egyptians love cakes like Americans love ho-hos, or there's something very important in that powder.
Master craftsman is a particularly important word, and the more I looked for this definition, master craftsman, the more I found, going back and back and back in time. The definition exists way back to about 4000 BC. These were the great Vulcans, the texts tell us. The master craftsmen were the great Vulcans. They were the people in charge of the furnaces. They were the people who made the Highwood Firestone. So as for the crucible and the conical stones and the tanks and the tables and all of the equipment at Sinai, it was actually determined by the Petri team that this temple was clearly a laboratory. So the report went back to London, and I began by telling you what they didn't tell us. What they found was the alchemical workshop of the Pharaoh Akhenaten and of the 18 dynasties of pharaohs before him. A temple laboratory where the furnace smoked and roared, just as the book of Exodus tells us, in the production of the Highwood Firestone, the Shemana. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. The smoke ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the mountain quaked greatly. That's what it tells us. Prior to that, it came to pass that when the sun went down, it was dark, and behold, there was a smoking furnace. A burning lamp passed between the pieces. The burning bush seen by Moses, which was a fire, a blaze, exploded, but was not consumed, and an angel came out of it. If you think about it, it's pretty well identical to the experiment that David Hudson did with his pencil. the blaze of light. It had no effect on the object within it. It's the same story. In Exodus we read that Moses took the golden calf. We're now on the mountain. The Israelites had made a golden calf. He burnt it in the fire and ground it to a powder. Now, nobody has actually queried these words, it seems to me, but if you burn gold in a fire, you get white powder. This was exactly the process of a Shemana furnace, as the Egyptian records tell us. And that's precisely what was going on at this temple. They were actually making this stuff. 50 tons of it.
That doesn't melt into molten gold.
Moses' own great-grandfather was the Pharaoh Thutmose III. Thutmose III had reorganized the ancient mystery schools of Thoth in Egypt and founded the Royal School of the Master Craftsman at Karnak.
I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna stop there with that, and I'm gonna let you go ahead, watch the rest of it. Watch the rest of it. Powerful, powerful. Why is it so important? Well, because we know we aren't what they say we are. We aren't what the news says we are. We aren't what biology says we are. We aren't what scientists say we are. And the conflicts around the world are all based in religions that are not true. Not completely, right? The scriptures were stolen. But that powder is highly important. I know some people will say monatomic gold, you need to watch the rest of it, but they link it together with power, right? Because if this is a element that's closer to the basis of what we are, then, and it can maintain us, then obviously it is the energy that we need to be sustained. So it actually is energy, 0 point energy perhaps. And you could do anything with it. They talk about how you can levitate bricks perhaps with it. If it sustains you and you're an electric creature, your wave energy, then it can affect everything else if it's closer to the base element of whatever created the universe and this big bang, this God thing, and this little pea-sized matter that makes up everything. And just a small piece of that can make an entire galaxy. And so maybe that is what it is. I don't know. I'm not here to tell you that I know anything. I don't. I just, I know where the truth isn't. That's what I know. And so this is a powerful, powerful presentation. And hopefully you guys follow this as Robert SEPEHR and going into the details of what that is. But, you know, how did they build the pyramids? Well, if you had a 0 point type of energy powder that was a base root element, you can make anything with it. You could make gold, you could make metals, you could make zinc, you could make mercury, you could make a human being. If you can make solar systems from it, a very small amount. Not that that's the root element, but that's something closer to it. If it is a construct, even a quantum construct of what all of this is, then you can make everything that comes from it. You know, and that's the power of alchemy, which is largely told to be myth. I don't know much about alchemy. I do know there's something there because they like to hide it. They like to say it's not true. Anytime the news says it's not true, there's something there. So anyway, I want y'all to look into it. Yeah, somebody mentioned pyramid. They talk about pyramids and they talk about the pyramid shape. They're actually later on, there is a, there is a, later on in this talk, where you want to go to is this guy right here. I believe this is, I forgot his name. There's so many people. There's so much to go into, which is why I kind of put this out there. Trish was saying it's good to have so many smart friends. You know what? Everybody has smart friends. It's good to have open-minded smart friends. It's good to have friends who are open-minded to be able to accept with humility that we really don't know what's true, who want to know what's true. That's what's powerful, and that's what's powerful about the folks here. But this is a scientist. This is a guy scientist at the end. I told you.
The average
I told you
investor
about.
earns just
And it's not them.
4.1% per year.
He's talking about trying to say something.
It's not made of.
And so what he did, he created a zinc pyramid. Somebody mentioned pyramids earlier. And when he made this zinc pyramid, the experiment he did, I'm gonna try to get to right here. After it was a certain period of time, the pyramid collapsed into a white powder. he was explaining here, which I'm not a chemist, so I won't go through. All I'm gonna do is lie to you if I even try. You have to watch it yourself. That the energy formed from a pyramid collapses in upon itself, and it goes to the points and collapses in upon itself. And after a few months or weeks, I forgot what he said, it collapsed into a white powder, right? A base, and zinc is supposed to be a pure metal, but somehow it collapses into a white powder. Not that that was that white powder, but that what we know isn't true. And there is no base element. Our periodic tables, it's mostly bullshit, right? It is an understanding of things at the level we are, and we know there's always a level deeper. And so he was assigned, so, you know, pyramids are energy, absolutely. They've been used, the pyramid, to increase sensor technology. That was the latest. They used the structure of the pyramid where they're increasing solar panel and censoring ability, sensors utilized for small electronics. So there's something there. I can't say that, you know, that he's on it, that they're on it. So that was important. You'll skip around. What is this, coupon? I want a coupon for honey. I don't really want a coupon for honey. So this was a great lecture. I'm gonna do comments and we'll get going. But yeah, they got into how they built the pyramid, perhaps levitation. There was another presenter, and he kind of got into these cakes, these Egyptian cakes, where you know they're always representing these cakes. They're making the cakes and they give them to the gods. And you got to be careful though, because towards the end of it, they'll start talking about monatomic gold and them eating the cakes. I don't recommend anybody eat monatomic gold. I don't recommend anybody eat any kind of gold, because we really don't know what's true. Like we don't. You know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. We'll let him speak for a minute right here.
Hold on, does some more describing. It says, what then is it? Next page.
What then is it?
Between those two.
I can't say that.
The superconductor is a macro system that literally is flux flowing and living in the world of the quanta. And literally it has entered a condition that is really not a plus electron or a negative electron. It literally is in the 0 point. And yet it's huge, but it's literally within the 0 point. The position of the superconductor is within the 0 point. A pure type 1 superconductor or a single element superconductor like I'm talking about. It talks about in the Papyrus of Ani all these properties and characteristics that will come to be possessed by the people when they die and come before God. It's talking about being perfected, walking there with the angels or the light beings. And it says, what then is it? It goes on, does some more describing. It says, what then is it? Next page. You know, describe some more, what then is it? 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 You're saying, God, these guys are totally preoccupied with this what then is it, aren't they? Nobody who read that previous to my bringing it to their attention ever questioned this. It was just what they said. I said, but you know, somebody writing this, they got this real hang up about this what then is it? Right? Anyway, I'm just giving you some examples. It's a great big book, you know, the Papyrus of Ani. It's what then is it? Anyway, just want you to be aware of this. When you go to the complete works of Josephus, next page, and it gives you the definition of the what then is it.
What then is it?
The word mana literally means, it translates literally to a question, what is it? That's what the word mana means.
So they're fascinated with manna. They're fascinated with this, what then is it? Why? Because no one knew what it was. Why? Because they were all poor. They were like us. They were in the middle class and the lower class and the upper class. They had no idea what it is, so they just called it, what then is it? Right? And so this is how you know there is something to alchemy. There's something to manna. It did things that made no sense, right? They could eat it, they could use it, and they could make gold from it. What then is it? No one knew. It was more of a base element. Could have come here on an asteroid. I have no idea what it is. My mind goes in a lot of different places. Like, I'm a gardener, right? I focus on how plants grow, right? When your plant needs selenium, as an example, it sends root systems deep down to get the 120 trace minerals and it taps into a selenium vein. Why? Because an asteroid crashed here a long time ago. Pressure, it created selenium. There could have been a crash of an asteroid on Mount Sinai, which gave a particle that was kind of like magnets, anti-gravitic, properties. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's all gone. Maybe it's not. Maybe they made it. I have no idea. But this is what NASA spends a lot of time on, right? They want to study the universe. They're looking for the base elements. Why are they doing that? Same reason the Egyptians probably did. Why are they looking for base elements? Because if you can find a base element, you can make anything. Like, this gets into the Sorcerer's Stone. Once again, I don't know a whole lot about the Sorcerer's Stone. People, I got more questions than answers. I got tons of, and the more I look, the more questions I have. I just know where not to look. All right, what is the Sorcerer's Stone? Who knows? It could be a stone. It could be an asteroid. Right? We live in a gravity well. Everything that is affected by gravity is on this planet. It's on a planet, because that's what planets do. They pull in everything affected by gravity. Everything not affected by gravity, base elements, whatever, they stay up there. Which is why we have such a problem. We're slaves to gravity. We can't get out of here because everything is pushing down upon us. We don't even know what gravity is. But if an asteroid crashed where you had some base elements, mana, if you will, attached to other metals, locked in rocks, and it landed here, boom, crashed down, and someone discovered what that was. Stacy said aliens, could be, I don't know. And they taught the people of the time how to use this and what this is and to eat it. Again, I'm not saying eat it. I would never say that. We don't, the secrets of this stuff are kept from us. They're always kept from us. So I'm not saying to eat it. I'm just saying that there's something there. I'd appreciate knowing what y'all know. That's kind of what's on my mind. I'm gonna go back through comments and I'm gonna get out of here. Somebody mentioned, real quick, I do want to mention the vaccine talk. Oh my goodness. Woo! Did y'all see that yesterday? Oh my goodness. Del Bigtree, he blew it up. Did they let that video stay up? I'll be surprised if they let that video stay up. Yeah, they had in Washington, D.C., it was the VI, the vaccine information something. I don't even know what it stands for. But I used to tell people, if you want to know something about vaccines, you need to watch Vaxxed. I no longer will say that. I'm going to say, if you want to engage in a discussion, an intellectual discussion, a scientific discussion, a look at all sides discussion about vaccines, you need to watch Del Bigtree's last video. Blew it. You know what? You can just don't watch anything else. Don't even watch Vax. You don't need to. Just watch the speakers they had there, the doctors and scientists. They even had the religious people. They had everybody up there. Phenomenal, profound. They kind of took what you'll call anti-vaxxers. I don't call them that. I call people who question prophet. And they put it all together into a little bag of information and disseminated on that. I was almost in tears at the end of it. It was powerful. So I'm glad somebody mentioned that. Powerful. You need to watch that. Question everything. Our video keeps freezing. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Black screen. Yeah, we got to go and come back in. Let me see. Seek and you will find. Yes, Stacy, people don't seek because they're told not to. They're indoctrinated not to. We don't seek because we listen to people who claim they already know God. We read books that define exactly what God is and what God wants us to do. So people don't seek. But it says right there in the scripture, you're supposed to seek God. You're supposed to study to show thyself approved. And they don't do that. And that's what I say. First, I agree. First, seek God. If first you're seeking God, the second rule has to be you have to know where God is not. Nobody understands God. There's no book that documents God, and God will never fit within a human box. Like crazy stuff. They say God is a man, a father. That makes no damn sense to me. How does that? You have a father and a mother because you're a biological creature with, like Stacy said, a penis and a vagina. And that's how you make more monkeys, right? God is not a monkey. Whatever God is beyond us. But it's definitely not, that's humanizing God. And I just made up a word. Yes, I did. It's humanizing. That's taking manism and monkeyism and portraying that on God. So nobody knows what God is. You have to constantly seek. And this is why I'm saying I think seeking is an individual voyage. It's an individual voyage. Because when people find it, or people get close to it, I don't think they like to tell you. I think you become a god. I think if you figure out what manna is, I don't think people are going to tell you. Because they didn't tell them back then. They kept it to themselves. Knowledge is power, but I think it's a voyage and a discovery. I think if you are willing to seek, ye shall find. If ye are lazy, you know how what's that saying? Intellectual lazy. I love that phrase. If you are scripturally lazy, if you are spiritually lazy, if you are faithfully lazy, if you are Christianly lazy, if you are Buddhism lazy, if you're Muslimly lazy, if you just want to go there and stop there, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If you actually want to find a God, there is no level to seek. There is no, I done got there, done, stop, finish, right here. You know, you have to go beyond that. And that's part of why I'm not really in the church, because there was really nothing spiritual happening there. There were people got together, had great songs. We had great songs. Had chicken bakes, you know. It was delicious. Well, people in church can cook. They can cook their butt off. It was a fantastic thing. But to me, it was a gateway drug to understanding that our understandings are not true. This is not true. What we see here, none of this is real. This is false. You are a spiritual frequency wave energy creature. We don't even know why we're here. And once I got a grasp of that, it kind of opens my mind to understanding that what they're spewing isn't true. Right? It's more formed by kings to keep you from the truth. If you're a king and you have the knowledge of God, you want to keep people from that. You have to become God. You have to tell them what God is so that they won't seek it. That's how you control them. So I think religion's a gateway drug. Start there, keep going, don't stop. God comes through visions. Yep, Stacy, I think God comes in. We don't even know what God is, so I think God can come in every way. If manna can sustain this human being thing, and God made manna, Big Bang, whatever it may be, simulation, I don't know, then God can come in any way it wants to. It can come to you through Buddhism, it can come to you through Christianity, it can come to you through burning bushes, it can come to you through psychedelics. It can use anything it wants. Anything it created, it can use to get to you. The whole point is let it get to you. Don't get hung up on the messenger, focus on the message. We don't know what we are, and we need to seek what we are. And our world is basically locked into conflicts because we're fighting over the messenger, and that nonsense needs to stop. Politics today isn't politics, it's a puppet show used to con children. Yes, Susan, the only thing I'd add to that, it's used to con adult children. It's used to con adult children. They're all out there murdering people. They're all out there stealing from each other. They're all out there in subhuman groups, and they don't realize that they're stealing from gods. They're killing gods. They're destroying gods. And that's even a scripture within there that something about you need to be careful of what you say to people and what you do with people, because some of you entertain gods. Accidentally entertaining angels. Something like that. I haven't read that scripture in a long time. Let me see. Well, I know Ivana, it's okay. You think she says she thinks Christ is a fictional character, and that's okay. I'm not sure why you think that, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody's got their own view. To me, I think it's just history. I think it's history. I think that a lot of people's view on Christ is based by what they hear and see from Christians, and most Christians have no idea what Christ is. They have 4 Gospels, a couple written scriptures about him. There are more scriptures that are written in India. People who had absolutely no interface with Christ. We talked about that before, but to me, all right, here you go. Let's delve in that just a little bit. What was I watching? I watch a lot of crazy stuff. I was watching somebody. They were talking about something that was largely, oh goodness gracious, you're reminding me of something. It was something that I thought was fantasy, but it was true, right? There was some, I don't know. Oh, right. Vegans. Not y'all. Vegans. Oh, the vegans are true too. It's a little aggressive. That's all. Some of them. That we came from Vega, right? There's all over the internet. You find these messages from Vega. That's what it is. Messages from Vega, right? Where the vegans came here and they said, love each other, take care of each other. We're watching you. We love you. You're wonderful things. Don't murder, kill, and eat each other, and don't blow up each other's countries for resources. The vegans, right? Because you can go online and look at the message from the vegans. It was a big thing back in the, I think, the 60s and the 70s. I don't care if it's true. I don't care if it's true. I could say that these are the fantasy vegans or something like that. To me, the messenger doesn't matter if the message is true. If the message is true that we need to love each other more, then I'm all for the vegans. I'm all for the vegans message of take care of everybody. The aliens are telling us to love each other, don't make nuclear weapons, and take care of everybody. I have no interest in telling people that the vegans are fantasy aliens. If those aliens, if you see aliens and they're telling you to love each other and don't eat children, don't drop bombs on them and blow them up. If the majority of people on this planet believe in politics and politicians and leaders and kings and nation and nationalism, and it's murdering people, and you got people who believe in what some will say are fictional fantasy creatures, whether it's Buddhists or Christ or the vegans or whoever, but they're saying love each other, I'm all for their message. I'm all for their message. And so I don't really care if they're somebody, if they think they're fictional. I don't really care. The message is what's most important, not the messenger. Focus on it. If the message is true, because people confuse the messenger all the time, right? Truth is truth. Truth is endless. It never stops. And it doesn't matter who it comes from. It doesn't even matter if it's a fantasy character. It doesn't matter if the person thought it was a burning bush. It was really a laboratory. You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really matter. If Moses went to the mountain, Mount Sinai, and he came back with some commandments that said, love each other, take care of each other, take care of the next generation, love the children, act like you got some damn sense, don't be a child at 52. Doesn't really matter if Moses went to Mount Sinai and saw God or saw some Egyptians and they gave him, or if it was a burning bush of acacia, which gives you a psychedelic experience. I've seen all those theories, and I'm fine with all the theories. I'm fine with this particular theory. The whole point is, what is the message? Is it true? That's my point. So I don't get off on the fictional stuff. I don't really care what people think. I think that we need to evolve. And the only way we evolve is we start embracing true messages. If it's true, the behavioral scientists and the neuroscientists are telling you when you feed people, children, when you feed them, you give them a house, a little bit of love, they turn into fantastic creatures. They turn into spiritual creatures that do greater things than Christ did. I'm good with that. Right? Christ said, feed people, take care of people, don't fight with people. That's a powerful, truthful message. That's what we should be doing. We have the technology to do that. Let's do that. So instead of arguing about whether or not Christ is true or Buddhism is true or whatever, we look at our modern science, our modern studies and research, and we realize if we take care of people, we go to phenomenal places as a species. That's what I find very important. So I'm not into arguing over the message. To me, it's a useless activity. Being Christ-like means to give freely. It does, Stacy, and to love everybody. The universe is an energy, frequency, vibration on the micro level, every bit of it. Absolutely. And we know that, Citizen Deb, and quantum physics are explaining that to us. And that's why I think the study in quantum physics is seeking God in those ways. Jesus Christ would have been called a Bodhisattva if he had been born in northern India. Okay. All right. I'm good with that, John Anthony. I have no idea what it is, but I'm here to learn too. This is why I throw stuff out to intelligent people that have different experiences, get them to regurgitate it and throw it back. It's funny. Wait a minute. It is funny. This is one of the things I love most about G. Okay, what is that thing? I don't know what it is, Lori. You know what? I love love. I love the idea of evolving. I love the idea of let's take care of the next generation more than we take care of ourselves. Let's do the sentient things that we see monkeys and rabbits and cockroaches and mosquitoes do. Let's take care of the next generation a little more than what we take care of ourselves. That's why Christ is one of my teachers. Jesus said, God is in you and all around you. He and everyone were the children of God. He never claimed to be God himself. Okay, right, we went through that one. Yes, he absolutely is all around. Everybody's God. And the problem with that, Susan, though, is if you know everybody's God, if you actually think everybody's God, if you actually have faith in that scripture, who do you invade? Who do you bomb? Who do you not let in your country? Who do you steal from? Who do you rape? Who do you not let have health care? Nobody. Who do you hate? Who do you impeach? Who do you vote for? Who do you vote against? The problem with faith is what Susan said. When you actually have faith in the scriptures that you spew, in a religion that you claim to believe in, and a God that you claim to fear, It means you don't act and behave like the adult children running around. And we all do, so I'm not gonna put myself on no daggone pedestal. I fall, and when I fall, I got friends that pick me up and explain to me that, come on back. You fall, and that's not where you're supposed to be. You're resonating negatively. Come on back. If everybody's God and they're all gods and God created everybody and everybody's God children, you aren't starving anybody in Yemen for lithium. You're not about to blow up Venezuela or Bolivia. You don't force your medications into people's veins. That's what I'm saying. That's why I like there are false religions, they're false faiths, and too many people have those things. All right. Sister Sandra, and who do you put in prison if we're all gods? Who do you put in cages if all these babies are closer to gods than what we are? Who do you put in prison born in a nation that forces children into conflicts that adults vote for in political parties, but they blame the children when they do it, but they don't blame themselves when they do it with the voting letters, joining political parties? It's bad to be a part of a gang, but it's okay to be a part of a political party. Contradictions, hypocrisy, bullshit. Right? When you actually believe the things that you spew, it means that you're actually not in conflict with anyone. You're loving everybody and you're trying to take care of everybody. You put yourselves in everybody's shoes, not just the black people in the city, but the white folks in the ghetto. Not just Chris Gardner being choked out by police, Boulevard Finicom being shot by the FBI. That's the problem with real accepting of spirituality and these scriptures that tell us the things that are true, ignoring the messenger and focusing on the message. It means you're not in conflict with anybody. It means that you love everybody and you're looking out for everybody. It means you have a Christ-like consciousness. What does Buddha mean? Buddha means to be, the first part of Buddha means something like intellect. Somebody correct me because I know I'm gonna say it wrong. And the last part means something about the acceptance of joy, right? To be disconnected from struggle. You have no struggles. When you see the world for the way it is, when you believe these things, you're not struggling against anybody. You have total joy and you can kind of watch and have happiness in everything you see. And that's what a Buddha is. And there were thousands of Buddhas, people who got to that level where they detached themselves from all these identities and all these fake struggles. Lori said it earlier, the fuggles. That's the problem with hating religions. That's the problem with hating faith, that people who don't understand it, they're as bad as the people who love it so much that they don't even see God. They think God is in a book or a box. You know when you see it, right, Lori? And that's kind of where I am. You know when you see it. You know somebody who's smarter than you when you meet them. You know someone who knows something you don't when you're seeing in a comment section. When you're introduced to something that is beyond what you are in that category or that topic, shut up. Shut up and listen. You see somebody walking on water, listen. You see somebody healing people, maybe that's something to kind of pay attention to. Now I would guess that the vast majority are lying and just smacking people in the foreheads and then falling over in the church. But there every now and then one might be true. And I can tell you this, when I ran into this creature that was not a human being or was a human being attacked with something that it's not supposed to be, it actually was in a church. And it was in a Christian church too. So I'm not hating on, like I said, I'm detached from it because I can't be attached to people, the whole conservative thing where you're bombing and robbing and stealing from people. But Christ is a teacher. We discover God inside us. We don't ask him to come inside of us. And that's scripture, John. That's scripture. We just got, God is within you. You are God. If God is this base element thing that was the size of a pea at the Big Bang that blew up, then everything is God. Everything, and it's within God, and even within the animals. We were talking about, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat animals. I used to. But even animals are God. God is within them. That you're supposed to be a steward of the planet. You're supposed to love and respect them. What's one of the brothers, Michael, who's a hunter. Vegans don't understand. And they go, well, why is he, he's got hunter friends. And, he's okay with eating meat. How is that okay? Well, there's a difference between loving a thing and accepting that this is where we are, in our evolution, that some people eat meat, some people don't. Some people respect the animal and the life form that it came from, and some don't. And everything you eat came from something else that was alive, whether that's a tomato or that's a deer. I kind of prefer that it be a deer that's running and loving and having joy and happiness being free than a cow that was born in a cage that couldn't move, fed something that wasn't even its food, right? There are hunters in grocery stores and there are hunters in the wild. But if you accept that everything is God, then you have more respect for all life. If you got a respect for all life, I think that's more of a Buddha type setup. That's more of a Christ-like consciousness when you just accept that this is how we are right now, and that you do consume other things, but you do it out of respect for their life. And we don't do that with the mass farming. But everything is God, and God is inside. Empathy is a great thing, Lord. We need a lot more of it. Last comments, let me get out of here. Minister, pastor, atheist, agnostic, whatever it is. Right, Lori. I think if we're talking about the same thing right there, I don't really care where the truth comes from, as long as it's true. As long as it's true, then it's long-standing, and its source doesn't matter, right? It's like when you're starving. You care where the food came from? If I'm starving, I don't know. Let's say that I'm one of the starving Americans in a trailer park, one of the poor white kids, or I'm one of the poor black kids in the ghetto, or I'm one of the poor homeless people who live under New York City in those caves. I'm one of the poor ones in Yemen that the conservatives who saying that they love Christ are actually starving with Saudi Arabia, or the liberals who say that they got some sort of a heart in them and not ice blood, that they started it with Barack Obama, finishing up with Trump. If I were one of those starving people, are you worried about where the food comes from? Whether it's KFC, McDonald's, Burger King, wherever it is, if you're starving, I'm not asking where the food coming from. I don't really care. If I'm starving, I'm eating. And what I accept is that I'm among a starving species. We're starving for knowledge. We're starving for empathy. We're starving for love. We're starving for sentience. We fail in all of these categories, all of them. We, in behavior, well, from our mouths, we lie and say we love children. In behavior, collectively, we hate children. We hate the next generation. We can't stand it. We're annoyed by it. It is a something that's in the way of us attaining what we want. We're starving. That's why, again, back to the whole point. It just, the messenger doesn't matter. We need to focus on the message. It doesn't matter if it comes from KFC, McDonald's, Christianity, Buddhism, Jewish, whatever it comes from. We're atheism, agnostic, quantum physics, biology, ancient archaeology, baby. If it's true and it puts some love in you, that's what we need to do. I can't believe that just rhymed. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Yes, Lori, spirituality. Love it. Absolutely. That's why I think all those things are a gateway to understanding the world we see isn't true. And we need to really start to go in the directions we know are true. Because I think if there's this God thing, it's just truth. And we need to go in that direction. If we know TV is false, well, we need to start heading away from that. If we know all the media is lying, it's false, we need to head away from that. All these political parties are lying, they're false. They're always just enough good to keep you engaged, but just enough evil to keep the powerful people in structure in place. We need to get away from it. Start heading in the directions that are true. You actually got to put God first to do that, right? You got to put spirituality, whatever all it is, first to do that. You can't put yourself first. A lot of people say they put God first. I'm like, you put God first, don't you? You're putting God first. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like in a golden crested mega church. That's what it looks like. Putting God first. Okay. Mm-hmm. Bombing children under rubble. That's what. Okay. Putting God first is shoving vaccine in the kids' van. Okay. All right. If you say so. If you believe. Let me see. Religion separates us. Spirituality connects us. Absolutely. We hit that. If power brings you closer to evil, does humbleness bring you closer to God inside you? Megan, according to most religions I've ever looked at, yes, absolutely. Humility and that whole Buddha, Christ consciousness, just loving everybody, not engaging in negative, resonating activity in groups. I think so. I think all sensing is the way. I think consciousness is the way. I think that, you can only be closer to God if you're closer to the things that God creates. And you're closer to the things that God creates when you love them and you want to know them and you don't want to murder them and eat them and steal their oil and lithium. That's what I kind of think. All right, let me get down. And I'm sorry, I wish I could read all the comments. We actually was short for a little while, but it seems like everybody's starting to come over to YouTube, which is fine. If Facebook doesn't want you to be in their home, then maybe you should do less things in their home. That's how it gets done. But you don't worry about it. You understand this is how the world works. Truthful things are not allowed in the billionaires' media sources, and they censor some better than they censor the others. Always look in places where they tell you not to look. I think they said infrared shows these energy flows or something between the galaxy. Yes, it does, Citizen Deb. Didn't we do that a couple weeks ago? What was it called? What's the name of the satellite? The satellite that showed all of the energy connecting the planets and the solar systems. There was that satellite, I forgot the name of it. But it showed that it's all connected. It's all connected. You know, we don't see it with our naked eye because our eyes are based in survival for feeding the biological monkey parts, right? But the real world is a spiritual world. Everything is connected. You are connected to everybody you see right here. Everybody around the world. When you bomb other people, it affects you. When you kill other children, it affects you. Every child that was hunted or raped or destroyed, whatever, on Epstein Island, it affects your children. It affects you can't be just because you see that your kids are safe and they just went to school, you put them on the bus. You live in a society that's about to blow up other kids elsewhere or are doing that, it's affecting your children. Everybody and everything is connected. And that's why I say karma is what it is. You know, and we were talking about karma the other day on the thread. You know, and you can reverse karma. But when you send that out, when you send the wave out, that wave is coming back unless you do something to impact that wave. You know, you're either sending out sustainable waves or you're sending out unsustainable waves. Some people call it good and evil. I just call it sustainable and unsustainable. But everything is connected. You are in an ecosystem. Everything you do has everything has an equal and opposite reaction. Absolutely. And that's that understanding from science to all the different religions and karma. Jesus wasn't happy with the money-hungry church. That's a nice way to put it, Stacy. Jesus had no interest in Caesar, no politics, no government. Jesus had no interest in banking and money. Jesus had no interest in any of it. And I find it highly interesting that all the churches now all have bank accounts. And they're run like businesses. Jesus had no interest in any of that. But all those churches embraced it. And those are some clues and hints as to how close they are to God. Lori's avoiding going to work today. And you should be, Lori, because, undo. What just happened? I just hit somebody's messages. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did. I just pressed the button. Somebody's messages are hidden. I need to undo that. I think I clicked undo. I don't know what happened. There's been a connection between the Big Bang, loud noise creating frequency, vibrational waves, and the passage in the Bible. There was nothing and God spoke, made noise. Yes, Susan. I think I saw a lecture on that. They were talking about how the Big Bang was this vibrational energy, poof, sound. At first it was nothing. And then that sound and a little pea-sized matter created everything. That vibrational voice that went out. I think some people call it a trumpet. Some faiths call it a trumpet, or religions. The Aborigines say that there was an original something, sound. They all say this. And I think it's just like us looking back at the past and trying to understand all of these things that were told to the first people. The root religion, perhaps, on the different continents. And they became these false religions. But they all talk about an original sound that started everything. That's why I don't see religion and science in conflict. I just see that we always accept what we know at the time. That's why I think we have to approach things with humility. Because we don't really know. We need to not discount things because we don't understand. Because science does not. At one time, I'm pretty sure we were pretty sure that the vaccine science was settled. It was solid. Now we know it's not. We need to keep moving forward. At one time, we thought we knew everything about, Christianity and Judaism and Muslims. And we locked everything into a Quran and a Gita and a Bible. And that's it. It's definitive. We figured it out. And we never do that. It never is. None of this is settled. We don't know enough. Science is always settled. Oh, everything is organs. Now that everything has cells, then everything has atoms, and everything has quantum. And it's like at a certain point in time, you say, you know what? We just don't know. We actually just don't know. Let's seek. That's weird. The notification popped up 30 minutes late. Yeah, something was weird local with the notifications here. It seems like it's delayed. I try to start it, and the beginning is like really. I need elevator music at the beginning, because the beginning on YouTube it takes a long time for people to join in. Because I think the notification is late, but I'm always. You can set your watch by me. I'm a boring person when it comes to that. About the same time every single day, Monday through Friday, I'll be here. Between 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. I try to get started at 9. It doesn't really happen. So if you're here, I will be here. Trying to figure out what's true. Oh, there you go. Oh, Stacy, I deleted. What is that? Message deleted by Gerard. What? You deleted message? I'm sorry, Stacy. I deleted your message. I pressed the button on accident. Hold on. Put user in timeout. Remove report. Go to hide user on this YouTube. Add moderator. I have no idea what I did. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to use this platform. I'm not going to touch anything because I'm going to ruin it. I'm just going to see if other Stacy's other comments are here. It just says view deleted. Stacy, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what the heck I did. I'm an old dude and I got these big fingers. I can't. And the cell phones that they steal from other nations, the minerals, and they blow them up. They're so little. Everybody's got these little fingers. I got big hands. I can see it. Okay, I think I fixed it. It was a comment at 9:34. I think I fixed it. Deep down, the consciousness of mankind is one. This is a virtual certainty. Absolutely, Rebecca, is one. And if you're one with everybody, then you don't abuse anybody. That's why I think that understanding is very important. Yes, Rebecca, actually, the internet is a pro of it, or proof of it. We're all connected through either the collective consciousness. Well, and somebody said, Christine, something about that's how the internet got developed, that we already are consciousness and we're always seeking to be connected, and that the internet, coming from DARPA or whoever made it, that it was always this need to connect. We know that something else is out there. We know that there are other energies and we want to connect with them. That's that drive for us to want to connect with each other, and comes from that technology, internet, and interconnecting, a means of interconnecting with the other creatures spiritually that we know are out there. All right, Stacy, I didn't fix it because it's still saying if you deleted message. You know what? Let me try to fix one more time. Truth is inside. I'm reading the comments, Stacy, but it's saying weird stuff. The truth is inside, Stacy. That's why I think for everybody it's an individual voyage. I don't get enough interruptions on this stream. Violet Lotus. Okay, Violet Lotus, thank you. Let me see. Trying to find the oldest Bible possible. Don't rely on the internet biblical info. You know why. Absolutely, Stacy, and don't rely on anything. Like, the truth is inside of you. And don't find the oldest Bible possible. Find the oldest scripture possible. Find the oldest text possible. And I don't think we'll ever find it. You can go far back as you want to go. I don't think we'll ever find it, because all of this stuff was root religion type stuff. And it's all been deleted and modified by all these kings and lords so many times. They want you to think you're separate from God, right? That's exactly, they want you to think you're separate from God, but they also want you to think that you're a biological monkey and and act in monkey world. And I think that's a mistake too. You're not separated from God. You are a God. You are a powerful creature. And I think that's the most important thing they don't want you to know. They want you to think that you are a black, or you're a white, or you're a American, or you're a Democrat, Republican, that you're a monkey, that you exist on biological food, not a spiritual creature that can exist on man. I think you are a powerful creature. And I think that was even in Jeremiah, where it talked about that there are some secrets, the great secrets won't be revealed until the ends of time. And if that's true, then I think we need to proceed like that. All right. But anyway, so that was the lecture. I think y'all should watch it. I would appreciate hearing your feedback on that. That was powerful. It was Lawrence Gardner, and the brother's name is Robert Seffler. I'll post his link there. But once again, I don't think I would eat the gold. I don't think that we understand enough about those things. I think, I'm in a place of just asking questions. Why is that there, and why is it so significant? And it seems that the study they did in this video, which is an hour and 11 minutes long, that they linked a lot of things together that I find to be highly interesting. Ivana said it also can feed you. Wow. Well, Ivana, we don't know that that's true yet, so don't go eating. I need all of my friends to promise to not go at home and to melt your gold and eat it. Bad idea. Bad idea. We know nothing about what they were eating, how they made the powder, where it came from. The kings and lords lied to. I think isn't there something where people ate gold or something and they died? Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. We have no idea what they ate. We have no idea what that powder was and how they made it into gold, if that's what they did, or this is a double blind, double fake. Right now is the time to study. Go out, find some links, watch some lectures, do a collective hive mind thing, but nobody, don't eat gold. We need you here. We need you here. I used to speak regularly with the darn good alchemist, good guy. I would love to know, Miss Tree, who he was and what he speaks about. I don't know anything about alchemy. I was raised in public school, Miss Tree. Alchemy was myth and fake news, right? Maybe probably because the chemists had some poisons they wanted to sell. I don't know. So I don't know anything about alchemy. I'm basically agnostic about everything, but nobody else seems to understand what that means. Well, tell us what it means, Patricia. I question everything. Is that what agnostic means? You know, like I question everything, and things that kind of make some sense, I'll go with it. Pyramids can provide free energy. That actually is what that experiment was indicating, Stacey. There's something about the pyramid shape, that it focuses energy in a certain place, and that powder, if you watch the whole video, he talks about how he thinks that powder somehow taps into free energy. It taps into 0 point. That, you know, you got the oh goodness. I'm not, don't get me lying. He was kind of explaining that between the two poles of positive and negatives in the atom of whatever this is 0 point, and that this is a compound that actually taps into it. It's interesting. Wealthy people eat gold, and they should eat gold. I'm not going to try. Not yet. Not yet. We don't know. Right now, we just got pictures of Egyptians eating the cuckoo cakes, the monatomic gold manna cakes, if that's what actually they were. I think it's interesting. I wouldn't think about doing anything yet. Vi equals life. Yes, Deborah, that's what it was called. Vi. V-I-E. Del Big Tree from yesterday. Definitely take a look at it. Physicians are at least 50 years, more like 100 years behind what is known about the immune system. Rebecca, is probably worse than that. And like, it is so obvious too. The scary thing is you can see it on multiple levels. Like my favorite clinics are the Cleveland Clinic and the Mayo Clinic. They're always 10 to 20 years ahead of the family doctors. What I tell everybody, Rebecca, immediately, if you have some sort of chronic illness or disease, you do not want to go see your family doctor. You need to go see the Mayo Clinic. You need to get to the Cleveland Clinic. You need to go to the people who are at the forefront doing the research into whatever your illness is. Go to the top of the top of the top. And except the top of the top of the top is probably still far behind. Because like in everything, all of the things that are true, the powerful knowledge is usually kept from us. And it's in all disciplines, right? You know, whether it be medical sciences, whether it be energy, propulsion, whatever it is, biology. If it's from the ancient past and it's true, then they do tend to keep it out of the public domain, because the first step of the king is more power. And so what does the king do? The king and lords, in this case it would be governments and 100 families, whatever it is, they keep it from you until they know how to use it to abuse the 100 families or the other kingdom or the other nation or their own citizens. You know, just accept that the real root truth is always, the real powerful stuff is always kept. And a lot of our sciences are based on what's allowed into the public domain. What is it? And the 1,000 patents on energy propulsion that the United States government keeps hidden is a good example of that as well. God said we are made in her image. That's what God said, Lord. How can we understand the brain of God? We are not just human for now. Christine, the scripture said the mind of God is infinite and ours is finite. They will never understand the mind of God. It'll never happen. We can't even understand the things of that realm. And to me, that sounds like quantum physics, right? This idea that we see things from a monkey perspective, from monkey eyeballs, where we see biological things, but really it's all wave energy and particles. And if you don't even look like the wave slit experiment, if you look at it, it's a particle. If you don't look at it, it's a wave. These things we can't even comprehend. But we're still supposed to seek God. Seek God knowing that you will never know God, which means you can't put God in a book. That's the problem. And I think that was one of the tricks that God gave us. Like, you know what? Seek me. You ain't gonna find me. Hide and seek, punk. Seek me, but you're never gonna find me, which means you have to remain humble your entire life. Which means you have to question everything. You'll never get to a point where you can say, oh, I've written 66 books and this is God. You can't ever do that because you'll never understand it. And the minute somebody does it, you know that, oh, okay, you can figure God out, huh? Okay. Pull a Morpheus on him. Oh, do you really think that's oxygen you're breathing? Interesting. All right, last couple times, then I really gotta go. It's Friday. Let me see. Schumann resonance. Ooh, Kimberly's dropping heavy bombs here. You know it's important if more and more people come to the same truth in their own meditations. And Kimberly, that's what is like the powerful thing about the internet. And that's what I like about it. I have no interest in conflicting with people and forcing other people to think I'm right about something. I like throwing something out there and let it resonate. And other people like, oh, I believe that too. I had that too. I heard that too. That feels right in my cellular memory too. And to me, there's something significant. There's a scripture that says that too, which is why it's important. Where two or more are gathered in my name, there I will be also. There's something about numbers when people are coming in confirmation on certain things, So I think you got to think things and put them out there, let them resonate, and see if people pick them back to you in confirmation. Let me see. Looking forward to watching it. Thank you, Citizen Debs, and please let me know what you think about it. And if it resonates with you. It's a powerful thing. I'll post the link as soon as we get off of here. Spread peace. Yes, Lori, that's what we need to do. We need to spread peace. Spread peace everywhere you can. Who's Harley Design Studios? G-Man, what's happening? Fate Live Facebook jail. Harley, I don't know what it is. I didn't even ask them. Like I said, it doesn't work. That's what I know. I don't know if I'm in jail, prison, cemetery, permanent, temporary, what I don't know, and I don't care. I just find it significant that we were focused on as a group, which to me, it tells me that we're probably talking about the right things. I avoid doctors like the plague because there's profit in giving it to you. They will. Going to the hospitals is a good way to get sick and infected. That's true, Patricia. I don't have a doctor. I don't ask my doctor. I don't tell people not to ask the doctor. You can ask anybody anything you want. You can ask your alchemist. You can ask your doctor. Ask your herbalist. Ask anybody you want. But me personally, I don't ask my doctor a damn thing unless I'm in a car accident. Because one, I don't have a doctor. I don't need one. I realize I'm a spiritual wave creature energy. I drink my smoothies. I think positive. I think positive people. People come to me with hate and aggression, negativity and names. And I love it. I bless them. Bless you. Bless you. I hate you. I pulled some internet drama not a minute ago. Oh, you're this, that, and you're what was I? I was some kind of a Buddha, something. What was I? I was like a fake Buddha. It was something that lady called. I love you to death, lady. I don't even remember your name. I don't even know the argument. I don't even know what I was pulling. I was pulling some kind of argument. I think it was Susan or somebody else. I was like, what? Why am I even in this? Why are y'all calling me all kind of names out my name? And I just said, you know what? Bless you, sister. Bless you. Love you, girl. Do you, boo-boo. Do you. Just put positivity out there and amazing things happen in your life. And stress is the worst thing you can do to your immune system next to going to your doctor. Because your doctor, he works for pharmaceutical companies. He's not a healer anymore. He's a chemist. He's not even an alchemist. He sells drugs and they fight the immune system. And you need your immune system to heal and create all the things in your body. So I try to use a placebo effect in very positive ways. I try to have as little stress in my life as possible. When people come into my life to stress me, I just say, I love you and I bless you, but I'm gonna need you to stand 20 paces from me because I can't have stress in my life. And that tends to take care of most things. We all take different, somebody give us a last comment so I can get out of here. We all take a different journey to meet the same destination. And I think that's what it is, Susan. And I think the world works perfect that way. When everybody's taking a different journey and everybody respects everybody's journey, and you love everybody, look out for everybody, you eventually come to the same path. And I think in a way we all have to take different journeys because we're all different wave energy creatures that are resonating differently. We need to hear things in a different way. We need to feel things in a different way, but we all kind of arrive at the same point. We got to respect each other's journey. And that's the hardest part, is respecting each other's journey, because there's something in the human monkey side, the human monkey 98% thing, that makes us think that we're right. And it's hard to interact with people when you always think you're right. But in everybody's experiences, you are right. Did any of you guys see the NASA UFO footage? Oh, Harley, I don't even Harley Design Studios. I have no idea who you are on this. I'm pretty sure I know you on Facebook. I'm not looking into it. I don't want to see it. I gotta go because you get me on UFOs. I'll be here and I'm way over my time. You know what? Post a link. I'll take a look at it. I'd love to see it. I love to talk about UFOs, but half of me thinks you just said that just because. Because you got here late and you wanted me to stay, and y'all know how to play me. All right, I ain't gone. Listen, love y'all to death. It's Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Take a look at this video and on sacred geometry and gold and alchemy and Moses going to Mount Sinai, and the kings later telling us that Mount Juba Juba was Mount Sinai because they didn't want us to go to Mount Sinai to realize that Moses found a laboratory. They had some white powder there. It was not cocaine for my druggy friends. And it was not necessarily a burning bush with God, but it might have been Egyptians and alchemy and things that we didn't understand. And let me know what you think. Anyways, Gerard, get it going. Y'all have a wonderful day now. Love y'all. Bye-bye.